and I don't have my hearing aids in tonight, I'm sorry.
Okay, Bonnie, at 7 o'clock you can start.
Good evening. I call to order this regular joint meeting of the Minnehaha County and Sioux Falls Planning Commissions, and I will begin with a few introductory comments. My name is Bonnie Duffy. I am the chair for the Minnehaha Planning Commission, and we have Kurt Johnson here for the City Planning Commission. As a courtesy to everyone here tonight, please make sure that all cell phones are turned off. Please note that tonight's Planning Commission meeting will be rebroadcast via CityLink and posted on the www.minnehahacounty.org site for viewing by the general public. The two planning commissions work together on land use and zoning matters within the rural area surrounding the city. This area is displayed on the screen. When this joint hearing is completed, the joint Sioux Falls and County Planning Commissions will adjourn, and the next regular business meeting will begin to consider items beyond the joint zoning jurisdiction with Sioux Falls. Any final action taking on the conditional use permit applications tonight will take effect 5 working days following this meeting unless a written appeal of the Planning Commission's decision is filed in the Planning Office by Monday, March 7th at 5 p.m. In the event of an appeal, the decision will be referred to the County Commission and the City Council for a joint hearing on Tuesday, March 22nd at or after 5 p.m. That meeting is held in Carnegie Town Hall at 235 West 10th Street. First on the agenda is public input. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? You come forward, sir. Please state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Rick Bonander from Valley Springs. One of the issues that we'd like to talk about tonight is the CO2 pipelines that are scheduled to be coming through our communities. We are concerned about some of the federal guidelines and the depth and how close they can come to residents. As I understand it right now, they can get within 50 feet of a residence, a building, or an industry building, and they only have to be 3 feet deep. And with the heavy equipment that's going through these fields, you can sink that deep in a wet year. We're concerned about liability issues, and we'd like to have the County Commission and take a look at what they can do to set up some new regulations that are more strict than the federal guidelines. Those are the comments I'd like to make and have you consider that. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? At this time, the Planning Commission will consider the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are perceived to be non-controversial and meet all of the requirements of the codes and regulations. The consent agenda will be acted on in one motion with no public hearing on the items unless a member of the public, the commission, or staff requests the item be removed from the consent agenda. The minutes from the January 24th meeting are included in the consent agenda. Does any Planning Commission member wish to have any item removed for discussion? Next, I'll read each item on the consent agenda and ask if there are any issues or comments from the staff or the audience. If any member of the staff or audience would like to be heard on the item, please raise your hand and the item will be moved to the regular agenda to allow you to address the commission later in the meeting. Any items remaining on the consent agenda will be approved by the Planning Commissions with the conditions recommended by staff. The first item is the approval of the minutes of the September 27th, 2021 meeting. Item number 2 is conditional use permit 22-09 to transfer 5 building eligibilities from the north half, the northwest quarter, and there is an exception of the west half, the north half of Lot 2, and H2 and H4. That is the end of the exception of Section 19, Township 101 North, and Range 50 West. And the west half, the north half of Lot 2, the northwest quarter, another exception, H-1, H-2, H2, and H4. End of exception of Section 19, Township 101 North, Range 50 West. And the south half, the southwest quarter, and the south half, the southeast quarter, another exception of Lot H1 and H2, end of exception. Section 18, Township 101 North, Range 50 West to the southeast quarter of Section 18, Township 101 North and Range 50 West. That is in Wayne Township. Petitioner is Robert Nielsen. He's also the property owner, approximately 2 miles west of Ellis Road.
Madam Chair, we need to discuss this one. So I'll pull this one off.
Just don't make her read it again.
Yeah. So you want that removed to the regular agenda? Is that correct? Okay. Okay, I'll need a motion to approve item number 1.
Make a motion to approve item number 1.
Second.
I have a motion and second on the county side to approve the minutes of the September 27th meeting. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes on the county side.
City Commissioners, we have a motion that was passed from the county to approve item number 1 on the consent agenda, approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Can I have a motion on the city side?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We had a motion and a second on the city side. Any further discussion on that item? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Item passes on the city side.
Okay, we'll move on to the regular agenda. Scott?
Thank you. Scott Anderson, Planning Director, and just a little bit of a housekeeping issue. After the applicant submitted this request, he is asking to have one of the building eligibilities removed from consideration. They have, so it would not be transferred. As you know, this is located approximately 2 miles west off of Highway 42. On the photograph, on the air photo, you can see the subdivision West Acres. And this is directly across the road to the west of West Acres. So the applicant is now requesting, so if you slide back, the building eligibility that's on the north side of Highway 42, the furthest to the west, is going to be excluded from the request. The applicant now only wants to transfer these 4 eligibilities. So with that in mind, staff is recommending the same set of conditions. There's 3 of them, that a right to farm notice be filed, that they obtain any approach permits needed from Wayne Township, and that if they create a 5-lot subdivision or more, that it would be it would need to be a preliminary plan submitted and reviewed and approved by the city. So with that, I would be glad to answer any questions. I do have some pictures. Basically, it's now just empty pasture fields. And you can see this is West Acres, and this is 467th, I believe. So, but you can see they've cleared out trees, and there was some outbuildings there. They've demolished those. So I'd be glad to answer your questions, but the request now has been slightly amended to only move 4 building eligibilities instead of the 5th one.
Any questions for Scott?
Madam Chair. Scott, does that third condition on the, on your recommendation, does that stay the same?
Yes.
Even though it's now only, okay. That
Well,
didn't
they're
change
moving
it.
4, but there is one on that existing quarter. So there is still a potential for 5-lot subdivision.
Correct, but what I was asking is just making sure that that condition isn't being changed.
No, it's
To
not.
reflect the new number. Thank you.
Any other questions for him? Is the petitioner here? Please step forward, state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Robert Nielsen, the owner of the property. Oh, what else did you need?
Any comments? I mean, you realize,
Yes, yeah, so, you know, we just purchased the property a year ago. We're farmers, just trying to reduce some debt and move these housing eligibilities out of the way for farming. And when I was looking at the application, it said it was trying to mitigate the ag land interruptions. So I thought if we move them all over by West Acres would be a good fit for them. And the reason we excluded one, because we have interest in someone wanting one on the west end. So we thought, well, yeah. Oh, and I didn't know if you know anything about Lewis and Clark pipeline goes along 467. Do you know what restrictions that might have?
I don't.
You don't.
No, I don't.
Because I'm presuming, can you build a road or a driveway over the pipeline?
Scott, any comment?
With that, but yeah, you can. You're gonna need to work with Lewis and Clark.
Oh.
As long as it's not a permanent structure, but you'll need to meet their requirements for the
Oh.
construction.
Okay, so we own the pipelines under the ground, but we do own the property up to the road? They have an easement or something, is that
We
correct?
can work with you
Oh,
on that.
okay, yeah. Not really familiar with it, but that's our goal, is to, you know, move these housing eligibilities up by West Acres. And there was an old building site there. We removed the house and the barn and some other outbuildings and cleared out a bunch of old dead trees and just cleaned up the property.
Anyone have any questions for him? Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else in the audience care to speak to this item?
Madam Chair, lacking opposition, I'll make a motion to approve conditional use permit 22-09 as amended by the proponent, moving 4 eligibilities.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the conditional use permit 2209 to transfer only 4 building eligibilities, as was corrected. Any further discussion? All those in,
Chair, sorry, real quick, that was with the 3 conditions?
Absolutely.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor on the county side?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes on the county side.
City Commissioners, item number 2 has been passed by the county. Can I have a motion to approve item number 2 on the city side?
So moved.
Second. Had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And just to clarify, do we wish to have the 3 conditions? We do. Thank you. All those in favor then of item number 2, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, say no. Item is passed on the city side with the conditions.
Thank you. Move on to item number 3. It's a conditional use permit, 22-08, to allow a medical cannabis dispensary on the property legally described as Lot A. There is an exception of H-2 and an exception of lots 1, 2, and 3, Block 3, Pleasant View Acres. It's the north half, southeast quarter, and the south half, southeast quarter, Section 19, Township 101 North, Range 48 West, Split Rock Township. Genesis Farms LLC, landowner is Johnson Properties. It's located at 1605 East Arrowhead Parkway. Kevin?
Good evening, Kevin Hookman, County Planning Department. This is the first of 3 kind of related conditional use permit applications for medical cannabis dispensaries. And to give you some background information that relates to all 3 of these is that Minnehaha County has allowed 1 licensed medical cannabis dispensary license to go forward, which will be chosen by the county commission at a later time. We had 4 applications, and tonight we're going to hear from 3 of them. A maximum 1 of the requests will receive a license. If you recall, in 2021, the Joint County Commission in Sioux Falls adopted an ordinance for requirements for medical cannabis dispensaries, in which case it was placed into a permitted special use with criteria requirements that if all the requirements were met, then staff could approve the dispensary administratively in that location. All 3 of these locations that are here tonight have not met or 1 or more of the requirements as a permitted special use, and that's why a conditional use permit is required. This particular location, for the first requirement, or the first item, is at the intersection of South Dakota Highway 42 and 6 Mile Road, as shown on the map here. This is in a commercial development with the highway on one side and city annex land on 3 sides. The petitioner has submitted lots of materials, including site plans, building layout plans, and a very comprehensive business plan, and a brief narrative describing the operation. Between all the submitted items, most of the requirements of the zoning ordinance have been met, with the exception of requirement number 1 and requirement number 3. Requirement number 1 simply states that a South Dakota Department of Health registration is pending registration for the operation. And because this is a new operation that has not yet been obtained, and it's likely going to be a requirement, it will be a requirement moving forward as part of the licensure. And then requirement number 3 requires a facility to be 1,000 feet setback from a property line of a parcel containing a single-family dwelling, church, elementary, middle, or high school licensed by the state, a daycare, a public use facility, a park, or other medical cannabis dispensary. And for reference, most of the property around this area is commercial. You'll see on this map 2 residences right on the map nearby. One has been torn down. The other one is located within a commercial zoning district, so it's a non-conforming use. The next closest residences in the area are a little over 500 feet away to the south and then to the northeast of the site. The conditional use permit criteria that is required for all conditional use permits, there are 6 of them to review. I'll kind of highlight some of the key parts of this. The effect upon the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area. And then I'll also go straight to the effect upon the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area. Since this is both the current and future, the site is an existing commercial zoning district, so it meets similar type uses in the area. Across the street on the north side in the Sioux Falls area, it is planned for large lot commercial and large retail. So that will also be similar to the uses in this area. So it will likely fit into the commercial going forward. The one concern about development in the future is that this is in an island of unincorporated land surrounded by the city, and that could cause problems for future annexation into the city, being that it's a use that until the city changes their ordinance regarding the number of licenses they have, if it was to annex, they would have to shut down their operation. So that would be one concern about future growth. As an existing building, the utilities and access roads are there. There is plenty of off-street parking for the property. Most of the business plan and operations will take place in the existing building, which should contain most of the potential nuisances of the operation. Staff suggests, as usual, any new lighting should be directed downward to prevent glare and spillage onto neighboring properties. And then the health, safety, and general welfare of the public and comprehensive plan. Minnehaha County chose to allow 1 medical cannabis dispensary in the unincorporated area. This is located in a long-established commercial zoning district, and the petitioner will be required to meet ongoing state and county requirements for licensure, plus any conditions. And I'll note that for the conditions of approval, which there are, staff recommends 13 of them. Number 2 is probably the most important for all 3 of these combined. They're going to be the same conditions of approval. Condition number 2 requires that all state and county licenses for a medical cannabis dispensary must be maintained at all times. This is the requirement that is going to allow us as a planning staff to recommend approval of all three of the medical cannabis dispensaries that will be heard tonight. Because if the dispensary does not meet this condition, they simply cannot open. So if for some reason the first operation is not chosen by the county commission, the next one have the opportunity to be chosen. So that's why staff is recommending all three of these to be approved tonight here. Most of the other conditions are part of the ordinance and written as conditions for approval going forward. So I guess I'll show some site photos. Here's a site plan using the existing building and parking on the property. The city of Sioux Falls is moving the highway around that to correct the intersection for better viewing and with the intersection. There's the parking and the sign and the building. There's the current intersection. The new intersection will actually be behind where I'm standing in the photo. And then there's looking to the northwest, and to the north of this photo, just to the right of this photo, will be the new commercial development for the city and future commercial. And then there's the beginning of the construction of the intersection where the trees in the house have been removed. And then the parking lot. You can see kind of the peak of the house in the back of this parking lot, and that's the non-conforming house just to the south of the site. So we'll go back to the site plan. And I am here for any questions, and I know that the petitioner is here, and we can go forward with that.
Kevin, I have a question. Did you say this is the selected site, the one selected site?
Yes, this is the one selected, or the first one out of the four selected. Yes.
Does
So-
that mean it's the one selected?
So maybe I'm getting
Okay.
a kind of a head shake of no. So maybe he can explain
Okay.
it better.
Eric Bogue, State's Attorney's Office. The county did a random draw similar to the city. It's the first picked out of the random draw. The commission has not acted on any of these applications yet.
Any other questions for Kevin? Is the petitioner here? Will you please come forward and state your name and address?
Good evening, Emmett Reichstroffer at 920 South 4th Avenue here in Sioux Falls. So I am one of the founders of Genesis Farms. I'm the chief operating officer, which means, I'm building this company from the ground up. A little bit about Genesis Farms. We are fully vertically integrated. So while we're asking for a permit for a dispensary here in Minnehaha County, we also have other locations around the state for dispensaries, and our wholesale facility is based in Box Elder, where we will cultivate, manufacture, package, and distribute the product out to our various dispensary locations. So myself personally, I grew up in Sioux Falls, and at around 21 years old, I saw this industry booming in other states and wanted to be part of it. I may have told some of you my story in the past, but I left to work in this industry for close to 8 or 9 years in other states, primarily Colorado and Nevada. So after South Dakota voters decided to approve medical cannabis, I quickly made plans. I wanted to come home, be close to my family, and continue my career. So that's why I got involved and why I got here. I have 3 business partners, Justin Johnson, who's one of the current property owners, and then Marlon and Troy Erickson, who are from Rapid City. They own MG Oil and a number of other companies. Here in Sioux Falls, they have some bars and restaurants and a few other things, gas stations, I believe. So I believe the partners hold tremendous business experience locally, and I hope to bring my experience working in other states. So I believe we're qualified to operate this type of business. I appreciate the staff's time to read through. I know he mentioned it's a robust business plan. I just wanted to show you, I know we don't have time tonight to go through it, but There is just a lot of time and work that goes into these operations. This is just the table of contents that kind of shows all of the different things we are planning to do, from staff training to security to quality control, cleaning and sanitation, access control, patient privacy. I mean, there's just a number of things. Inventory control is a very important one with the Department of Health. So we'll be using the state's required seed-to-sale tracking software, so all product is tracked and labeled at all times. There's really no opportunity for product to escape outside that system, at least not without getting caught. So there's very tight controls over the product and who it's distributed to. I know this is a new industry for my community, and I hope to be a good role model to show that these businesses can operate responsibly. So just now, that's Genesis Farms. I wanted to touch on a few things on the staff report and the site plan, and then I'll wrap up. But on the two requirements that we don't meet, I just wanted to point out, on the first one, we have not been approved for a state license, that is correct. But to keep the process going, I did submit our application to the Department of Health on January 28th. Just so it's on the record, that's application number 22 EST 00031. They don't really provide documentation till after it's completed, and I've received other licenses around the state, so this is still going through their pipeline, which takes 90 days. Now, it's kind of chicken and the egg, I guess. The state won't give me the final license till I show I've received some provisional approval from the local government. And I know the local government won't give me a final license till I show I've got the state. So I'm working on both in parallel. I wasn't sure if the state had contacted Mr. Bogue, but I'd asked them to. It sounds like they hadn't. I know they're drowning in work trying to launch this program. I wanted you to get the record from them, not me. Sounds like they haven't, so I'm happy to forward that record along just to show, that I did do that on January 28th. And with that, I've already obtained 2 state licenses and about a dozen local licenses, so I believe I'm very familiar with the process, and I'm confident that if I get the conditional use permit, I'll be able to obtain that state license as well. Regarding requirement number 3, well, I think that's really the core reason we're here. It was very difficult to find an eligible location that met all the requirements in the county unless we were truly going to be really out there. I hate to say on a dirt road, but that's kind of my way of looking at it. Away from the city, away from the commercial areas, there just wasn't a lot. This location made the most sense to me, and I think that's why all 4 applications are pretty much on the same area. This industry submitted 70-plus applications in Sioux Falls, so there's clearly interest in going into this industry. We received 4 in the county. So that bigger difference, I think, is based on that lack of eligible locations, and we think we found the best one. So knowing that we were within that 1,000-foot setback of some residents, right off the bat, the first thing I did was apply for the CUP, but then I went ahead and visited every neighbor that I could within that distance. We knocked on every door. After I speak, I'm going to ask the property owner, Chrissy, to come up. She was with me, too. She might share a little bit about that. Of course, I was nervous because I know this is something brand new, but I was happy to hear neighbors had no opposition, not any of them that I talked to. I did bring several letters, well, not much of a letter, but a statement, you could say, signed by those neighbors, which I'd be happy to hand out and provide. In addition to the neighbors who signed the statement, which I guess I'll just read the statement. It says, "To the Minnehaha County and Sioux Falls Joint Planning Commission, I have met with the applicant, Genesis Farms, and the property owner, Christine Johnson, for the proposed medical cannabis dispensary located at 7605 South Dakota Highway 42, and I do not have any opposition to the proposed location. So the only thing that came up was when we met with the Bruggemans, and I'm not sure, I didn't see them here tonight, but we had met with the Bruggemans who own some businesses nearby. They have a lot of history in that area. I'm not going to speak on their behalf, but we talked about a fence, like some type of privacy fence to put between their mother's home right next to the location. That's that house next door. So whatever fence they want, approve, will advise us on, we're going to do it. We'd build a brick wall if that's what they want. Whatever makes the neighbor happy, we're committed to doing that. For any neighbor who was not home when we knocked on their door, we left an invite to come to the Alibi, the current business that's at the location, with my name, number, email, a time the following Saturday, and pretty much nobody showed up. A couple neighbors who we'd already talked to showed up, and they were also signers of non-opposition, so we just talked a little bit more about how the business works. But I just tried my best to be diligent with giving neighbors a chance to meet us ahead of time. If there's any here who I haven't met tonight, I hope that I can have a chance to answer any questions or concerns, but I tried my best to reach everyone ahead of time. So that was requirement number 3. And I just wanted to also touch on the stipulations, all of which I fully agree with because I believe these stipulations, ensure compliance with the county ordinance, the expectations of the community, and I think to be a good, responsible business and a good neighbor. So I have no problem meeting these. In fact, my business plan was designed to meet all of these stipulations, even prior to getting this report. Our business plan addresses how the property is designed, how we control access, some of our staff policies, odor control, a number of things. So if I can just go down the list real quick, I'll just kind of say my summary. The first one, it's not transferable. Well, we are, fully committed to doing this. Even knowing that hypothetical about annexation, we know that could impact us, but we're still willing to take that risk. We understand it's not transferable. If that were to change in the future, I think the only thing we would consider is maybe transferring to another location 5 years down the road if we need a bigger lot or something like that. But I have no foreseeable reason to want to transfer, so we're complying with that. We're working on the licenses, number 2. The outdoor lighting, our contractor isn't here tonight, but I just wanted to mention, we are contracting with Reynolds Construction Management. Paul Reynolds already had a lot of success with the business partners in other industries, so we know he's going to do a good job with us. They have shown us several lighting options for all of our locations, so we'll make sure that lighting does not affect the neighbors, but is well lit enough to make sure our security systems can operate properly. Number 4, I think I already touched on that about getting the state license. Number 5 is compliance with the state rules. So in my business plan, each section actually cites specifically the various state rules that our policies and procedures are meant to comply with. So that's something we are doing. Number 6, fully indoor, enclosed, secure facility, no exterior sales, no sidewalk displays, no drive-through, drop-off, or pickup services. None of that is allowed in our business plan. How it works is a patient first gets their medical cannabis card from the state of South Dakota after they've talked to their doctor. They would come to our dispensary, show us the card. We would go into a verification system, and the state hasn't really made that live yet, but we would get verification from the state, whether it's through a phone call or a system, whatever they expect. We would verify that that patient is approved, and they are who they say they are. We would check their other identification. Once they're verified, we have a secure entry vestibule So nobody can just walk right into the room where cannabis will be sold. They first go into the secure vestibule where an agent checks for that verification. Once they're verified, we buzz them through the second door where they enter into the sales area. So we really control who comes inside. You're either an agent who works for us or a patient that's approved by the state and verified by the state. That's it. The only other rare exception would be, police, fire, EMS, that sort of thing for an emergency. Or if we had to have a plumber come in, for example, we would do that off hours. No product would be accessible to that visitor. They would be signed in and escorted in accordance with the state's requirements for having special visitors, but we minimize that as much as possible. So then number 7, our hours are 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Within what the ordinance allows. Currently, there's a bar there open until 2 a.m., so our hope is that neighbors will appreciate this is a business that's going to be closing a lot earlier than the current use. And with that said, depending on how many patients we have, we may actually want to cut those hours down. And I would ask for that modification to the plan at the state level and at the county level. If 10 p.m. is too late, because we're only having 5 or 6 patients a day, which as of right now, it's looking, patients are not, they're still getting registered. So there's like 220 patients in the state. So I don't see us needing to be open every day, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. But eventually, we hope there's enough patients that we'd be open that long. We want to help each patient on a one-on-one basis and make sure there's plenty of time. And I know I'm taking a lot of time here, so I'll try to wrap up quickly. Number 8's about odor control. There's a very good section in our business plan that talks about it. I really think it goes above and beyond because the main thing is our product will arrive at the facility prepackaged in airtight, child-resistant, tamper-evident packaging, which does not release odors. It's 4 milliliter thick plastic. It meets federal criteria for child-resistant, that sort of thing. The packaging's designed so you can't smell the product. So there will never be product out in the open causing an odor. But even though it's prepackaged, we still have a triple layer filtration system designed into our HVAC. So it's a charcoal filter, a HEPA filter, and then just a more general filter. So 3 layers of filtration before any air leaves the building. And also on that odor issue, I think another point touches on this, but under no circumstance is anyone allowed to consume their product on the property. They need to purchase it and they need to take it home. And not only do we have a sign that says no consumption allowed, but when the first time the patient comes in, we actually go over kind of the rules with them more or less, where we go through some bullet points on the need to know, no driving, know how to drive it. If you are going to transport it home, I say you put it in the trunk. You don't open that package until you get home. We look out for our customers and don't want them to get into trouble. But if someone were to consume in the parking lot, for example, I have a 0 tolerance policy. We go over the rules with them the first time they come in. So if they break any of those rules, they are then banned from coming back to us. And more than likely, I'd probably report it to the state. No one under the age of 18, state law prohibits that. We're actually looking at 21 and older. There will be some patients between 18 and 21. I'm not prepared to service them right now. I like keeping it simple. We're just 21 plus. No use of medical cannabis shall be permitted. I already talked about that. The waste is addressed in our waste plan. That's very rare at the dispensary level. For example, if a package accidentally got damaged or the wrong label got on a package and there's some reason to quarantine it, we would put it in a designated area labeled quarantine, and we would report it back to the cultivator and return it to them to destroy it. I don't want any cannabis going into our waste bins at the dispensary level. Our cultivation facility, which has a lot more waste as part of the growing process, other parts of the plant have to be destroyed. Anything from the dispensary would go to the cultivator to go with that. where we have a more industrial process to destroy the waste, rendering it unusable and unrecognizable. 2 more points and then I'm done. Effective security and fire control, that's probably the biggest section in our business plan. You know, we will continue to talk to staff and make sure, you know, we are compliant on the fire control side with fire suppression, that sort of thing. On the security, everything will be under video surveillance on all areas of the premises, except for the bathrooms, obviously. But all entry points in and out, all areas inside, always under video surveillance. We store that video surveillance, I believe I want to say it's 90 days. It may be 180 days, I can't recall exactly, but it's what was required. So we stored that for a very long time. So if there was ever some reason to go back and see about an incident, we could go back and look to see, you know, a product went missing or there was a discrepancy in our inventory, we can do that. And the last one is, I guess first, on security, it's not just about cameras. I do want to mention too, I am trained for security procedures, things like armed robbery, also what to do if you have a disorderly subject. We will always have at least one manager on site who completes a 4-hour security training course. We are working with SMP Security, also based here in Sioux Falls, to install our systems, help us with training, and that sort of thing. We'll also have panic buttons, so there's a lot to the security. All right, the last part, I think I already touched on also with the waste part. It'll be in the vault in a designated area labeled quarantine, secured, also tracked in the software system. Anything that's tracked in the software will also be physically labeled with the batch number or the lot number associated with it. So at any time, the state can come in and make sure that our records that are available to the state match with what's physically present at the dispensary. So that was a lot, and I'm sorry to talk for a long time. I just really want to emphasize that we're putting a lot of effort into this, and I'm trying to build public trust because I know this is brand new. I am the first applicant to come before you to ask for this, so I maybe went on a little bit longer than you normally hear from applicants, but that's why. I just really want to make sure I covered everything, and I'll definitely answer any questions. That's it. So I'm available to answer questions. I did want to ask Chrissy, the property owner. She'll be a lot quicker than me. She's just going to say a couple quick things from her perspective, and I do have those neighbor letters. I don't know if I can give that to staff. So thank you so much. I got to get a drink of water. Thank you so much. And Chrissy, if you don't mind saying something here. And our attorney is also here. He may introduce himself as well, just so you know who he is.
Hello, I'm Chrissy Johnson. Like Emmett said, myself and my husband Justin own the current business and property where this is going to be located. I did 2 concerns for me was being a good neighbor and providing safe access to the patients. My background is I'm an oncology nurse. I've been that for about 20 years, a little longer. So I really believe in it. That's how I got connected with Emmett. We did go door to door, like he said, had great conversations with neighbors. I was thrilled to see we had no opposition. My biggest concern was the Brueggemans that are the ones that are right next door. Spoke with those family members. We talked about, you know, their only concern was putting up maybe some type of a privacy fence or something between, like Emmett said, and we told them we'd be more than happy to do anything that they requested. We also spoke with a lot of the major landowners in the area, Sam Assam, Ryan Tisdall, Clint Ackerman. Didn't receive any opposition from them either. I guess that's, you know, my biggest concerns is the safety and security of things, and that's why I'm just thrilled to be working with Emmett on this, his, you know, extensive background. The rules are long and cumbersome, and he's worked through them very well. So that's all I have.
I'll just briefly say, obviously, Emmett covered it. My name is Nick Mosier. I'm not a cannabis guy. I'm a small-town attorney from Yankton. I've got about 7 or 8 clients in the industry all across the state. Most of them are just small business owners who want to have a dispensary in the town that they live in. So I've been drinking with the fire hose the last year, talking to city commissioners and planning folks and all that good stuff, planning and zoning meetings. I do have a lot of experience in highly regulated industries. I represent some casinos out in the Black Hills, and I represent some banks here in South Dakota. So my message to them is the people of South Dakota are giving you a chance, and these folks are giving you a chance, and we're going to follow the rules. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else in the audience that care to speak to this item? Please state your name and address.
Hi, TJ Cameron, 2821 East Daybreak Circle in Brandon, South Dakota. We just wanted to let the council and commission know that we are here on items, the next two items on the agenda, and we'll love our opportunity to be heard, and we'll be here when you have any other questions, but we want to let you know you are here. If it's a vote on one or none, or if you'd like to hear all three first and then make your vote, we're here for that as well.
Anyone else care to speak to this item?
My name is Todd Agee. I run J. Agee Automatic Service, 7101 East Arrowhead Parkway. I'm not against any of my neighbors in free enterprise. With the medical marijuana or medical cannabis, if it's such a thing controlled, like you said, I know everybody would monitor on their premises. You can't consume it here. We'll be up the new frontage road, and away you go a quarter mile away, and sometimes these parking lots become a little place to park for a little bit. I ain't saying that's going to happen, but I see it in other types of things right now already. I can show you the camera footage of what takes place in the middle of the night. Again, I'm not against my neighbors. If this is a medical thing, I'm more of a proponent for the medical side of this, as long as it don't evolve into the next level. Again, I just wanted to say my piece. I'm a little bit outside of the 1,000-foot type area, but it has an effect in the area a little bit. If we could bump it down by the river, I think it'd be a little better. Thank you.
Anyone else care to speak to this item? Commissioners?
Madam Chair,
Jeff?
this is sort of a question for our legal folk. If we approve this one, do we have to listen to the other two?
Members of the commission, Eric Bogue again from the State's Attorney's Office. Whether you listen to the next two or not is entirely up to you. I possibly would, at some risk of giving some advice beyond legal, as judicial economy in the perspective of getting all three addressed tonight, one way or the other. That's of course up to you folks, but not doing just one and then having to come back if the commission were to say no to the one that you'd take any action on. So if you take action, and I would have one, as long as I'm at the podium, one small typographical correction on one of the conditions. It's not just maintain those licenses, they have to obtain and maintain those licenses. So if you just insert that one additional word into the conditions. So again, preference is entirely up to you folks. You don't have to do all three. That's up to you. But again, whether you listen to the presentations is of course up to you as well.
Anybody have any questions for him? Commissioners?
Sorry, excuse me if I may. I just wanted to make note that we're item number 4 and 5, but we're item number 5, and we had actually asked from the last meeting for our application to be tabled due to a technicality where we were told that we had to apply for the conditional use permit by the last meeting, which we did. which was later corrected from the state's attorney's office, and you can help me out with this, but was later corrected that there was an error between the dates of when you turn your application in for the conditional use permit or to when the actual meeting happened. And we, as number 5, did meet that first deadline, but then were later told that the deadline, there was a little bit of a miscommunication in the deadline. So as number 5, for sure, we would at least ask to be heard because we were not number 1 in the lottery. So we asked to table our item till this meeting due to that miscommunication. But our entire business plan was posted on the Alest agenda in advance for every other person and competitor to look at prior to this meeting. So we'd love to be heard for at least that one for sure.
Thank you. Commissioners?
Madam Chair, I was a proponent in Minnehaha County to have more than one dispensary in the county area. That said, I was also prepared to not approve anything tonight. But I think Emmett gave a very good, very wide-ranging explanation on how they're going to run this business. And the people of South Dakota, 70% of them voted in favor of this, and I think I am inclined to support it at this time. And the only thing is, I don't know if I am going to support 3 in a row or just, you know, I'm just speaking out loud here.
Is that a motion?
Well, I wonder if the city people ever have an opinion.
Commissioners?
Well, I can say I understand that the commission wants to choose. That's what I heard. So I think we're trying to listen to that.
Any other comments?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve conditional use permit 22-08.
With the conditions that staff recommended.
Absolutely, and the word correction from the attorney.
All right, thanks.
Do I have a second?
Yes, Madam Chair, I guess I'll second that. I will say, I do think we do owe it to the next two petitioners to at least hear them out. So I do think we need to do our due diligence there as well. So I guess I will approve it, but do ask that we continue to hear the next 2.
Yeah, I wasn't making a motion to kick them out too, but you're right, Mike, that's a good idea.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to permit conditional use permit 22-08 with the conditions and also the change. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes on the county side.
City Commissioners, the county has approved item 2208 with the staff recommendations, including the obtained and maintained language in item number 2 of those conditions. Do I have a motion on the city side?
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Second.
Had a motion and a second on the city side. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I think since the South Dakota voters have voted favorably for this, overwhelmingly actually, I think it's only correct that the Planning Commission follow suit and allow them to find a place. This place that they're proposing seems appropriate for this use, so I'm in support of it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of approval of this motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Item passes unanimously on the city side.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 4. Another conditional use permit, 22-16, to allow a medical cannabis dispensary on the property legally described as Lot 5A in Tract 4, Pleasant View Acres, the north half, southeast quarter, and the south half, northeast quarter, section 19, township 101 north, range 48 west, Split Rock Township. Petitioners Emmett Reistroffer, landowner Todd Voss, 7401 East Arrowhead Parkway. Kevin?
Kevin Hookman again, from the County Planning Department. This item is the next next medical cannabis dispensary request. It's by the same petitioner in a different location, a short distance off the first one. In kind of brevity's sake, I'll just say that being that this is a very similar location, it does meet most of the requirements of the ordinance, again, except for requirement number 1 and number 3. This one does add in that the Split Rock Fire Department is located within 1,000 feet just to the northeast of the location, and the houses that are located nearby are a little bit different locations from the site, to the south mostly. The staff is recommending approval of this conditional use permit with the same conditions, and I will go ahead and include the same correction, or recommend the same correction of obtain and maintain the license from the state for the conditions. So we can hear from the petitioner again, or any other questions of staff or people.
Kevin, I have a question.
Yes.
This one says Emmett is the petitioner, but later on it references Genesis Farms. In the first one, Genesis Farms was the petitioner. Does it matter? Is it under their name, or is it under corporation, or what is the situation?
You know, I believe, Emmett is the representative of Genesis Farm, and I don't know, maybe it got written down when we were writing our staff report down, one or the other, but it's the same company and the same person, just different location.
So the responsible party is the company?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions for him? Is the petitioner here for this one? Please step forward. State your name and address.
Hello again, Emmett Reistroffer from 920 South 4th Avenue in Sioux Falls, and I'll clarify why my name is listed. It actually, we applied under a LLC called GFV LLC, but I was listed as the point of contact. So what we have here is Genesis Farms has applied as our company, but in many cases, we've also partnered with other folks. And I think highly of TJ, who's here too, and I'm not going to repeat everything, but you know, TJ and Todd would be the you know, managers of this site, and we would work with them in partnership through the GFV LLC. But with that said, I don't want to repeat everything. I'll just say that I'm going to lend, you know, my expertise and business plan to their team as well and work together. So if, I know it's a little confusing, you've got multiple applications, so there was a lottery, which is my understanding how the county decided the order by which applications would be considered. All of us have to go through the CUP to remain in that consideration, and that's why you've got all three here tonight. I was first because I was the first one drawn in the lottery for Genesis. Now, if we ran into any issues with that Genesis application, my understanding, I could be corrected, is then it would go to this second applicant. And I am affiliated with that, but I don't want to speak again because you've already heard me. So I just wanted to clarify that, and if TJ wants to speak, feel free, and I'm happy to help answer any questions.
As petitioners, or as the landowners number 4, Todd Voss is my partner. He's standing here, and I'm our representative. I will just say we were a little confused on the petitioner for number 4 as well. I'll save most of my comments for number 5. But property number 4 and number 5 are the same parcel owned by the same landowners. And we went through a vetting process because we were contacted by at least a dozen or more different organizations looking to enter the industry. And we narrowed our decisions down to Genesis under whatever variation of name, and Shangri-La which will be the next one. So I'll save my comments for there, but they'll be brief because everything that was covered by petitioner number 3 is included in the business plan for number 4 and number 5. So to save you some time, all of those conditions are in the same, similar business plans. But I just did want to mention that we are petitioner number 4 and 5 as the landowner. We're a little confused on the petitioner here as listed to ensure our partnership in number 4, but we are the landowners. We did give them permission to apply under our agreement together, and then I'll save my comments for number 5.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the audience care to speak to this item? Commissioners, Jeff?
Madam Chair, I'd like to ask Emmett a question on this one. The address is considerably different than the first one, not in a different township or anything, but so you probably had a different audience of residential and business properties in that area. And what was your canvassing telling you about that?
Good question, Commissioner. Thank you. So if you look at that map there, the one highlighted is the one on this agenda item. You can still see where the last one was on that corner there. So they're actually very close. You could see them from each other. So by and large, it's the same neighbors. Maybe TJ had talked to some other ones farther in the other direction, but we talked to as many as we could, and it was pretty consistent response of no opposition. So they're very close. I don't see much difference as far as location.
I just wanted to check.
It's a nicer building. It's a nice big building, that's for sure. So, but I think the locations are pretty similar, so.
Okay, anyone else care to speak to this item? Commissioners?
If you did have any specific lot questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Yes, Madam Chair, if I may. Understand it is, again, in the same geographic region, like he pointed out, just a few lots down, and essentially the same managing agreement. I guess I'd make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Okay,
With the requirements and the wording too that
Thank you.
we updated.
okay. I have a motion and a second to approve conditional use permit 22-16 with the conditions and also the change on number 2. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes on the county side.
City Commissioners, the county has just approved item 2216 with the conditions and amended language for number 2. Do I have a motion on the city side?
Second.
On a motion and a second, any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, similar comments to the last one, except for this one doesn't have quite as good of access to the arterial, which makes it maybe not quite as favorable as the first one in my mind, but I'm still in support of giving the county commissioners a list of them to work through and decide which one is the most appropriate.
Very good, thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor then of item 22-16, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Item passes on the city side.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 5, conditional use permit 22-04 to allow a medical cannabis dispensary on the property legally described as Lot 5A in Tract 4, Pleasant View Acres, North Half, Southeast Quarter, and the South Half, Northeast Quarter, Section 19, Township 101 North, 48 West, Split Rock Township. Petitioner is Shangri-La, SD LLC, and the landowners Todd Voss. Same location, 7401 East Arrowhead Parkway. Kevin?
Yes, this operation is, at, again, the same location, this request for medical cannabis dispensary. Largely similar staff reports. The one exception is in the application process, the petitioner for this operation did not submit a floor plan for how they're going to move people through the building. That is a requirement of also state approval as well. And it's a large building, so remodeling could accomplish that part of the requirement. And then I'll just refer back to the staff recommends approval with the same conditions with the obtain and maintain requirement as well.
For him? Guess not at this time. Is the petitioner here? Will you please step forward, state your name and address?
TJ Cameron, 2821 East Daybreak Circle, Brandon, South Dakota 57005, on behalf of Shangri-La SD LLC. I'll have to review, as we do have a floor plan for the tenant side of the building, so if that was an oversight, we do have that plan laid out. It does specifically lay out secured entrances, as well as interior secured trash disposal and containment, if you will, as well as entrance verification, which is listed in the business plan that's should be included in your packet. It's quite thick as well. So I will just note that as the landowners, this was an industry that I personally became interested in when my father fell ill of fourth stage cancer. He decided on his own accord in the last 6 months of his life to obtain cannabis pills from Colorado. And as his son, I said, well, can't condone, illegal activity, but at this point in your life, it's up to you to make the decision. And that's what made me become interested in this industry. So Todd's my cousin. He also saw his uncle pass. We decided to start pursuing the industry, and we realized how detailed the depths and requirements and legalities are, which I do feel for the average business owner in South Dakota, Minnehaha County, or Sioux Falls would be very, very difficult to obtain. However, we were fortunate to have a prime location that we feel in the county, that we were approached by both Genesis, who has a great executive ownership and history of business in South Dakota and tons of money, as well as another company out of Missouri called Shangri-La, who also has deep pockets, if you will, and experience. They currently own 7 dispensaries already operating in Missouri that have been operating already, as well as 25 additional licenses pending nationwide, including South Dakota, and they chose us as our exclusive operating partner for the entire state of South Dakota, Todd and I. So they'll have South Dakota residents involved in anything they do in any other location, including this one. So we believe in both companies' executive backgrounds, if you will. One has existing current ownership operations. Other has a great consultant that has been involved in the business for a very long time. So solid backgrounds. Just a couple of notes we did want to make on this particular location is it does have a residence that has already been in our prior presentations to the commission that will be demolished in stage 3 of our development of that property, which is more storage units. You can see some of the storage units in the photos that Kevin showed earlier. The other thing that we really like about our location here is that there is a service road, which we believe actually mitigates traffic off the highway. So not only is it a location that's a little less prevalent, if you will, from a main intersection for folks that may have concerns of the uses, it does have a service road that mitigates traffic. In addition, we'll always likely be a property that will be outside of the city limits because we already have an existing use of a fireworks store. So they're 2 non-conforming uses, if you will, or untraditional uses on the exact same property. So with this particular property, whether it be with us with Genesis or us with Shangri-La, either way, this would be one less contested property when it comes to annexation for the city in the future, because we're already a fireworks store, which would be very difficult for us all to agree to annexation. This would be on the same property. So it'd be one less property in the vicinity that could potentially be annexed to the city in the future. So hopefully less trouble, or if you will, complications for the city side. Additionally, we already have a sprinkler system that's been required in our prior use, and there is fire suppression, speaking of extinguishers and such, but our the commission already required us, as the only fireworks store in the county, to actually have a actual sprinkler system in the building. And as long as the county would allow us to penetrate the firewall that we also agreed to put in, which is very expensive, to extend the fire suppression system, we could easily extend that for our tenant on that side of the building with ease and a reasonable cost to us, because it's already been put in and there. The only other thing is that I know for sure, and I believe Emmett can totally speak to this on the prior applications, but I can speak firsthand that Shangri-La and has had Todd and I submit all background requirements that have been submitted to the state, and all requirements, et cetera. I'm sure Emmett can speak to that for our other partnership as well, but those requirements have been submitted. We have not, however, submitted our state application, because one of the requirements of the state application is that you first have this approval. So like Emmett said, it's either, the egg or the chicken. So whichever way you choose, I'm sure it will be okay. It's just that before the state could approve theirs or ours, they would have to have this positive recommendation in the first place. So I'm sure it's fine for all parties involved. The only other concern that we may have if a different location were approved other than ours, that we feel that this location, whether it's in partnership with either group, is the right location, is that in the future, because one of the requirements with the county is, should the county decide to offer more permits, there's a 1,000-foot requirement from other medical cannabis dispensaries. So essentially, by approving one that's two or three parcels away, that could eliminate our future potential if our location wasn't chosen with either partner first as the chosen location and site for this particular license. It could complicate it for us in the future to have an opportunity to apply should any additional licenses be approved in the future. So I'm happy to answer any questions. There's a very extensive business plan, as Kevin stated, so Emmett did a fantastic job. I mean, he knows this industry really well. Everything that he highlighted is also included in our business plan, which has been out there since prior to the last meeting as well. So I can answer any specific questions, but we do have all of those same safeguards in place and prepared.
Any questions for him? I guess not.
I have a question for Scott. Scott, do they have to have a floor plan?
I think it's a requirement. It's been a question for Kevin.
And he could ask Nathan.
So the floor plan is required as part of the permitted special use. It is not necessarily required to approve this item tonight.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve this one pending a floor plan when required.
First off, I better ask, is there anybody in the audience that want to speak
Oh, sorry.
to this item yet? Okay, I'll take your motion.
I'll second it with the conditions and the updated number 2 on there, like we have talked on the previous two.
I have a motion second to permit, conditional use permit 22-04 with the conditions, also with the act, number 2 that has been changed. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes on the county side.
City Commissioners, county has approved item number 5 with the appropriate conditions and the updated verbiage for condition number 2. Do I have a motion on the city side?
Second.
Got a motion and a second on the city side. Any additional comments, discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Item 5 passes on the city side.
Any old business? Any new?
Madam Chair, before we adjourn, I just would like to address the concern on the CO2 pipeline that was brought up.
Go ahead.
It's not an agenda item, so we can't really get into it very far, but we've had a number of communications as county commissioners. I would say maybe 4 that I've received, plus we've had people come in person and bring up the topic. And I think that we are planning on, or possibly planning on, sending a letter to the Public Utilities Commission bringing up the concerns that our citizens have brought forward.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
A motion to adjourn the joint meeting.
So moved.
Favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.